G'day guys, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my first video with a face cam. I know a lot of you have been asking for one, and we've obviously had one on streams. If you've been to the streams, thank you to those who have been to the streams, by the way. But yeah, I wanted to incorporate face cam into my videos now, just to show my live reactions to crystal openings and other stuff. Live fights when we showcase the champion and whatever. Obviously, that won't work well for War. I'm still going to do post commentary on War videos, but everything else will have a face cam, unless you guys really don't like my face and you want it to go away. But this video, we're going to be looking at Masteries, because I know a few of you have been asking about my Mastery setup when I run. Obviously, if you've been following the channel, you know I'm a pretty avid Suicide user, but it's not all that I run. I do run some other setups. We'll basically be just covering our two main setups. The first one being our everyday setup for AQ, AW, EQ, story content, incursions, arena, whatever. And then the second one will be pretty much our non-suicide build for Alliance War Defense and just anywhere where we don't want suicides. Like Variant 5, I did all of Variant 5 without suicides. So we'll be covering that next. But first, let's look at our everyday setup. So starting in the offense tree, we've got a pretty standard setup on the left side here, just one in strength, one in greater strength. Just one in courage. I know a lot of people run 3 in courage, and I do sometimes, if it's for like Abyss or if I've got a really tough war fight, I'll put 3 in courage, but I usually just stick to 1. 1 in pierce, 1 in lesser precision, 1 in lesser cruelty. We've only got 4 in precision. I'll show you where that missing point is. It's in the defense tree, but yeah, just 4 in precision. I took this out. I took it out of precision rather than cruelty, just because I do use quite a lot of champs with high crit rate, like Falcon and Corvus and Ghost. So I find more benefit out of having cruelty max rather than precision. But I know some people disagree with me there. Then on this side, down here we got 3 points in Despair. Absolutely one of my favorite masteries. I think everyone should invest in Despair. It's so useful just for so many situations in this game. And it just can turn some of your champions that aren't everyday heal blockers into decent heal blockers. Nick Fury with his bleeds. Even Corvus with his armor breaks can help, because it's 15% per debuff. Silver Surfer. Guillotine 2099 with her degens. Namor with his bleeds. Obviously Torch, the typical science champs. Torch, A-Bomb, Mr. Fantastic, Cap Infinity War. Who else? Hitmonkey with his bleeds. Vision Arcus with his armor breaks. Captain Marvel, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Ronan even. There's just so many, Hyperion, Wolverine, there's so many champions with access to a decent amount of debuffs that they can be used to mitigate a lot of regen where they normally wouldn't be able to. So yeah, such a good mastery. I always try to run max despair when I can, unless I really don't need it. And then we've got 5 points in deep wounds, which is expensive. I know a lot of people want to invest in deep wounds, but they're unsure. Oh, is it worth the cost? And for the most part, I think yes. Especially if you have champs like Nick Fury, and Blade and Aegon, who really benefit from deep wounds. Warlock. But you don't realize how much better your bleeds are until you get max deep wounds. Just for example, Warlock, his bleeds off his heavy, I think 5 seconds, I want to say? Yeah, 5 seconds. For 3,000 damage about. So that's an extra 1,500 damage from every heavy, just for having those points in deep wounds. Obviously Nick is one of the champs that benefits the most from deep wounds, because of his light ending combos. They have the 1 second bleeds, which turn into 3.5 second bleeds. But there's plenty of other champs that I use regularly that benefit from deep wounds. Namor not so much, since his bleeds don't do that much damage. But Blade, Aegon, Ben in the Dark, Cap Infinity War, Hitmonkey, Archangel. Archangel really benefits from deep wounds. Ronin, Magneto, Wolverine, Falcon. Yeah, Venom. There's tons of champs that benefit from deep wounds, and I'd say in the long term, it's really good to invest into. And then we've got one in Assassin. This is something that I've been tossing up on the last couple of months, just because I've been finding just less and less reasons to run it. I think back in the day when champs like Magic were a real pain to fight, this was more valuable. But I think we've got a bunch of champs like Falcon and Nick and Archangel now that can really lock down ability accuracy just good enough that Assassin just really doesn't make a difference. The damage boost is nice, but usually I'm using champs that can just finish that last 18% with one special attack. So I don't know. I definitely am happy with running one sometimes, but I definitely won't run more than one ever in this mastery. And then we get to the fun part of the offense tree, starting with Glass Cannon. I usually just run one in here. Sometimes I run three if I really want an extra attack, but just one is good enough for me. One in Recoil, the worst mastery in the game. Everyone knows this. Since every time you throw a special attack, you lose 5% health, which sucks. Just reading this before the other two, some people just get turned off by suicides just by reading that. But I think overall it's not as bad as it seems, because yeah, you lose 5% health per special attack, but these two masteries give you 60% attack, which is until you run it regularly, you don't realize how much of a difference that makes. I can't stress that enough. And after I go through my mastery builds, I'll be ranking my top 5 most valuable masteries that I think everyone should invest into at some point. So that's the offense tree. We've got 32 points in there. Now looking at the defense tree, this is pretty standard. 1 in vitality, 1 in greater vitality, 1 in salve, that's all you need. You don't need more than 1 in salve, pretty much ever. And then 3 in recovery. This is immensely important, especially if you're running suicides, but also I think it's really good just for everyday setups, even if you don't run suicides, especially when combined with willpower, which we'll get to soon. 1 in energy resistance, and then 4 in physical resistance. This just helps with, just block damage and stuff like that. It's really, these points on the left is really just getting enough points to unlock willpower, since you need 15 on the left side. And then we got 3 in block proficiency, 1 in perfect block. And then on the right side, we've got 3 in willpower. Probably my favorite mastery in the game. I can't stress enough how much I love this mastery. And I know some people think that it's not worth running without suicides, but the more and more you play this game, you'll just realize how many situations you get yourself into, how many champions you fight, how many nodes you fight, that you can just benefit from having willpower. Even 1, but I'd recommend getting 3. It's such a valuable mastery. Just, fighting champs like Immortal Abomination, it's hit into his block and you get free healing. Who else? Mr. Fantastic. You bait at special 1, you get free healing. Who else? Even Doc Ock, you hit, well, not Doc Ock because that heal blocks you, but you get what I'm saying. Cosmic Ghost Rider. If you use a villain against him, that's a permanent armor break. That's free healing permanently for the whole fight. That's insane. And you get that all from just 3 points in your mastery setup. And I know it's somewhat expensive to unlock, but the more and more you play this game, you'll realize how valuable it is. Yeah, it's such a good mastery. Everyone, please get willpower as soon as you can. I know people that have completed all the content in the game. They've completed Act 6, haven't explored it yet, and they've completed the Abyss. They still haven't got willpower, and it does my head in. It really does my head in. But that's just my 2 cents. Okay, then last point is in Coagulate. So this makes us take 10% less bleed damage just in total, which is the main reason why I have this is because of Double Edge, since that places a 16-second bleed on us at the start of the fight where we lose 20% health. So with Coagulate we end up losing 18% health, and then with willpower we can regenerate a bunch of that bleed damage back, and we end up losing around 10 to 11% with a champ that doesn't have any like bleed or poison resistance. And each level in Coagulate, I haven't unlocked past 1 because it's not worth it for me, but each additional level reduces that damage by about 2%. So you can end up taking only like 7% damage at the start of the fight with 3 points in Coagulate, with a champ that doesn't have any immunities or resistance to bleed or poison. So it's actually really good for serious suicide users. But the other benefit it has is for 2 champs in particular, that being Omega Red and Magneto. Both I have at rank 3, 6 stars, and both have 90% bleed resistance. So with 1 in Coagulate, they get a full 100% bleed resistance, which if you've seen my award videos, you would have seen Omega Red, at the start of the fight, he just gets free healing from Double Edge, takes no damage at all. And fighting knows like shit in the thorns, biohazard, it's just constant willpower healing. It's another reason why willpower is so good. Is champs with resistances, since they take no damage from those debuffs, and they just heal from it. I'll talk more about willpower later. So that's my defense tree, and then quickly the proficiencies tree. So this is the smallest, obviously. We've got 3 points in parry and 3 in stupefy, which is really essential for a decently long stun duration. I'll talk more about stupefy later. And then we've got 1 in limber. This is just to unlock the other 2, and then obviously 1 in dexterity. You don't need more than 1 dexterity. 1's enough. Outside of a few scenarios. Okay, so now let's look at my other setup that I run. This is pretty much during season, it's pretty much just what I use to place my defenders with, but I also use it, for if I'm doing some serious incursion running, I'll be doing this setup with a few tweaks to it. But yeah, this is pretty much what I'd call my non-suicide setup, which obviously I don't run nearly as much as my everyday setup, but I still occasionally run it. So this is a screenshot I took a few weeks ago, so I won't be able to click on each mastery, but I'll be able to zoom in. You can see it's mostly the same. There's only a few key differences, so I'm just going to highlight those. Well, you can see the left side here is all the same. But then down here we've got obviously 3 in despair still, 5 in deep wounds, and we've taken 1 point out of assassins. And then up here we've just got the 1 point in glass cannon, and obviously no points in recoil or liquid courage or double edge. So yeah, that's the offense tree. So 24 points in there, and then the defense tree is exactly the same. So this is pretty much so that I don't have to take any points out of here and reset and end up spending more units. So it's mainly for a convenience thing, but sometimes I'll reset the defense tree and take out coagulate or whatever if I need to, but usually I keep the defense tree the same for both setups. And then the proficiencies tree is where we end up pumping our last 8 points into. So obviously we keep parry, dex and stupefy, and then we pump 4 more points into limber, which is obviously helps my defenders a lot more because it reduces the time they parry stunned by a significant amount. And then the other 4 points go into Mystic Dispersion. So this is mainly just because I've placed a few defenders that are Mystics, so they do benefit from Mystic Dispersion, such as like Mordo and Mephisto or whatever. But typically, offensively, I don't really run Mystic Dispersion that much, just because I'm usually a Suicides user, and Suicides and Mystic Dispersion don't really mix very well at all. The only champs that really, well, the only champ that really benefits from both is Mojo, in my opinion. But it's not worth running a whole setup just for Mojo. But yeah, so that is that's my defense setup pretty much. So just quickly before I rank my top 5 masteries, I'm just going to talk a bit about what the future of my masteries might look like, and just what my thoughts about that are. So it's mainly actually, I think the offense tree is going to stay the same, unless I might take the one out of assassin, but for the most part I think it'll stay the same. I've actually been saving up loyalty and a few units to invest in collar tech. I think I've got enough for 4 points in this now, but I really want to invest in this because we have a rank 3 Punisher, 2099. But not only him, there are other techs that can benefit from collar tech, such as, you know, Guillotine 2099 makes a power drain more effective since the opponent doesn't gain as much power. Warlock, same thing really. But yeah, it's just a small bonus to techs, but mainly Punisher 2099 because if you don't know, when he's in overdrive, he reduces the opponent's combat power rate by, where is it? Here, 90%. When in overdrive, Punisher gains 4,700 attack rating, and his attack causes the opponent to gain 90% less power. And with collar tech, you can reduce that by quite a bit more. I think I haven't done them. I think someone else has done the math. You can get up to 99% reduced combat power rate. That is insane. You're basically, the opponent's gaining 1%. 1% of the power they would normally get. And I'm not sure if that math's totally correct, but I'll have to test it out once I get 5 points in collar tech. But that is such an insane thing if you think about it. So I'm really looking forward to maxing that out and really stretching Punisher 2099 to its full limits. And then the other considerations I've had is investing more into Coagulate for less bleed damage. Not really Suture, because that kind of hinders the chance of suicides, because they end up, not the chance of the suicides, but the champs that benefit from suicides, such as like Omega Red and Magneto, because it's less willpower healing for them. But for champs that I use for the suicides, that on the there are champs that I use the suicides that on the surface don't seem that suicide friendly, but they actually are more suicide friendly than you think. You look at Torch. Torch, yeah, he starts with a bleed debuff that affects his incinerate duration, but once you get that, once that goes away, you don't really need to throw many specials. Obviously he'll be taking a little bit of chip damage from the poison, but it's really not that bad. It's not as bad as people make it out to be, saying, you know, Torch is horrible with suicides, because he's not. Like, well, those people who haven't run Torch with suicides, they don't know what it's like. You know, I've used Torch in Abyss with suicides, and it's been fine. It's the same thing with, you know, Havoc. Havoc just sticks to special 3s. Captain America, you can just stick to special 3s. Archangel. Who else? And then there's champs. Well, then there's also champs that Aegon as well. But there's also champs that can pretty much just get through the fight without really throwing that many special attacks. You know, like Punisher 2099, Nick Fury. Their damage is so good with suicides that they don't really need to throw that many special attacks. Even Doom. So Suture could help with that, but for the moment I'm not going to invest in it. And then the other one was Resonate, because I've heard more people talk about Resonate recently. Obviously, there was that massive controversy in Variant 6 when that path came out, which you needed a weakness debuff for, and everyone was saying, "Oh, I don't want to invest in Resonate." But I don't think it's actually. I haven't obviously used it before, but I think it's a pretty decent mastery. Obviously, it requires lots of investment unit-wise, mastery core-wise, but it can definitely have an impact on the champ you're using, and it's one more point for despair. It's more reduced healing, and then it helps champs like Mr. Fantastic because he gets more benefit from debuffs. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on. But I think for most part, it's going to stay the same. I'm pretty happy with the setup. I've been running it for a while now, and I'm very comfortable with it. So anyway, now that that's over, I'm going to rank my top 5 most valuable masteries. Now, what you have to understand is this isn't the masteries that you should get right away as soon as you start your account. That's a bit different, which means parry and dexterity, they won't be in the list because those two masteries are staple masteries. Those belong in any build. You can't. They're basically required to play the game properly. Like, you can't live without them unless you're a really crazy player. But yeah, I'm not going to be including those. This is basically the masteries that I find have the most use and help you the most in content where you really want these masteries for. So starting with number 5. Number 5 is actually going to be Stupefy, which might surprise a few people, but so when your champions inflict stun debuffs, they last for an additional half a second, which doesn't seem like much, but combined with the parry stun duration plus your perfect block chance, this can create a decently long stun duration. I'm just going to quickly show a duel. There's Spider-Man maybe? This can basically turn any champ in the game into a better than average evade counter. Because you can just do 3-hit combos. Who do we use? I don't know. Voodoo. This can turn anyone into a decent evade counter because you just hit them while they're stunned and they won't evade. And obviously won't seem like much, but combined with nodes like Distrack and stun vulnerability and just other stuff, like, you won't realize how much of an impact it has, but it does its work, does the job. And it's definitely one of the masteries I suggest people invest in very early, because it also helps give you more control in the fight. Obviously, evaded there, I was too slow, but you get my point, right? I think some of the most valuable masteries, they don't pop up every fight. You don't notice their impact every fight, but they just do their job. Which brings me to number 4. Well, this is a bit different, but number 4 is Precision and also Cruelty, which is also a mastery, or masteries, a pair of masteries that I suggest people invest into very early, because it really makes a big difference on your damage output, and you don't realize that until you get both unlocked and maxed out. And they do both cost 5 Stony Mastery cores each, but Stony Mastery cores are pretty easy to get now, especially with the amount of units you can get at a new account, and also from doing the classic of the Bashik issues, you get 1 from every completion. But yeah, like, if we just look at Cruelty, for example, increases the critical damage rating by 475. That's actually pretty decent. If you look at, let's look at someone with, let's look at Silver Surfer, I don't know, just random champion. Crit damage rating of 738. So you're basically adding up over half that, and it really makes a big difference. And also precision as well, that makes it even better, since this makes you crit more, and this makes your crits hit harder. So yeah, definitely 100% a worthy investment of 9 and 10 mastery points. So now number 3, which will be a bit controversial, it's Liquid Courage and Double Edge. Now, there is a big. Sometimes I know a lot of people ask me, is it worth investing into suicides? Overall, yes. The main reason is speed, not how it benefits your champs. The main reason is speed, because literally everything you do in the game, if you can do it faster, it's better. You know, look at Arena. When I got suicides, I was a heavy arena grinder. I was grinding arena every day for several hours, and once I unlocked it, it blew my mind how much quicker I was doing it. And then also just dumping your energy in event quests, having suicides on just for this sort of stuff makes it so much quicker. And AQ as well, incursions, everything just makes it so much quicker. And I know it's a massive investment unit-wise, and that's one of the big concerns people have about it. Like, is it worth the 7,500 or whatever, how many ridiculous units it is? But yes, overall. And obviously, I'm not going to suggest people to invest in suicides if they don't have any suicide-friendly champs, or if they're looking to clear significant content with those non-suicide-friendly champs. But especially for endgame rosters, you'll find once you invest in suicides, you'll realize how many of your champs are actually viable with suicides. You know, before I got them, I didn't realize how well Archangel would be with them. You know, when he's not a horseman, he doesn't have any resistances or immunities, but he's insane with the suicides. You know, Nick Fury, obviously when he's in his LMD form, he's fine with the suicides. He can clear content. I used him for a bunch in Act 7 with suicides. He was great. Didn't need to kill him off. Obviously, if you do need to kill him off, which isn't that often, then you don't want suicides. But you know, there's other ones. You know, I already spoke about Human Torch, but Falcon, Mojo, who else? Captain Marvel movie, Colossus. Yeah, there's a lot of champs that will surprise you. If you end up unlocking suicide, you'll be surprised how not only the damage output, but just how many of your champs still remain viable. It will definitely surprise you. It's not just Corvus, Ghost, Omega, Claire, Magneto that benefit from suicides. So yeah, that's number 3. Number 2, I already spoke about this one, is Despair. Just I think as the game evolves, we see so many situations where regen is a problem, and we need a way to counter it. And you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, just use Warlock." But what if you can't use Warlock? What if you can't use Doctor Octopus? What if you can't use who's another good heal blocker? Magneto. Having Despair is just so good. It's so good for so many champs. I already covered them. You know, Captain Marvel, Archangel, Nick Fury, Vision Arcus, Medusa. It's so good just for even the little tiny reductions in healing makes a difference. So yeah, that's my number 2. And number 1 is Willpower. And I already talked about, you know, people ask me, you know, oh, well, they tell me, oh, Willpower isn't worth investing into if you don't run suicides. You should only get it if you run suicides. But that's totally untrue. Especially when you combine it with recovery. There's just so many nodes. Long distance relationship. Crumbling armor. And then there's champions you fight. Mr. Fantastic, the eye bombs, the so many. Invisible Woman. You know, Hulkbuster, or not Hulkbuster as much, but Angela, Cosmic Ghost Rider, that once you really get into endgame content and you know how valuable free healing is, and you understand how valuable free healing is, this mastery is insane, and it's something I really can't stress enough how important it is to run, and it's a mastery that I'm gonna run forever. I'm never gonna take it off, no matter what comes. No matter if they add 100 new better masteries, I'm always gonna run willpower. It's such a valuable mastery, and has saved me so many times. You know, you've seen my war vids. Willpower has saved my ass so many times in war. Obviously I'm running suicides in war, but that's beside the point. I still get saved by willpower. And if I didn't have willpower, I'd be dying in those fights because everyone screws up. You know, everyone loses health when they're not expecting to, and that's when willpower just comes in so clutch. So yeah. So the moral of the story is get willpower as soon as possible. But that's going to wrap it up, I think. I've talked for way too long, and it's getting late. But thank you for watching me rambling and waffling about masteries and how important they are. But you guys asked for it, and I have now talked about it. So I hope this has informed some of you, and I hope that this video will convince you to invest in the really good masteries. Remember the top 5 I mentioned. Stupefy, what was the 4th one? Stupefy, Precision and Cruelty, Liquid Courage and Double Edge, Despair, and Willpower. Those are the 5. Those are my 5. But anyway guys, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.